In the previous video, we just saw how nerve cells help in coordinating and understanding the stimulus and responding to the stimulus, and how the brain, spinal cord, they all participate in that particular procedure. So now we are going to look into how does this happen in plants. So does a plant do respond to a stimulus, and how does this plant respond to any stimulus? Second, do plants have special cells like nerve cells in them? And if they do, or if they do not, then what is the mechanism they are using to send messages among different parts? As far as we know, plants do not have nerve cells in them. So what is the mechanism that they follow to pass on messages from one end to other end? Now, as you can see the picture below, it's the picture of a touch me not plant. Okay? So the leaves of the plant will react or will show a response to the stimulus of touch. That is, the leaves will start folding inside. As you can see here, the person is touching the first tip of the leaf, and all the other leaves at the back are folding or closing themselves up. This is the response that is being given by the leaves. But you need to notice that only the one single leaf was touched. Then how does the whole stem containing all the leaves are wilted or closed? Because there is a chemical message which is sent by the tip of the leaf of the first leaf to other leaves. So this chemical message sent through the stem to each leaf is called as the stimulus, which has been understood by all the other leaves, and they wilt or they close up. So how does the touch me not plant leaves communicate? They communicated the message. That's why the leaves did wilt up, right? So plants do use electrical chemical means to convey the information from one cell to another, but they do not have any specialized cell to do the work. So indirectly, the parts of the plant, they themselves have a coordination system where they are sending electrical and chemical messages among themselves to a particular stimulus or a particular what we say kind of stimulus like light, water, virus infection, bacterial infection, or a pathogen. So they do react and they do send responses to this rest of the body by some electrical and chemical means, but they don't have a specialized cell or a tissue for that. Okay. The plant cells change shape. That is one way of sending the information. And how do they change the shape? They change the shape by just changing the amount of water. Either they swell up or they shrink. The other example that I've taken down here is the example of the tendril of a plant, how they are sensitive to the touch. Now here the touch is not a physical touch by a human being. It can be a touch by any support system next to it. It can be a wood, it can be a wall, it can be a tree. So what does the tendril do? When the tendril comes in contact with any support, the part of the tendril which comes in contact with the object will stop growing, or it will be very slow in growing. So if you see this part of the tendril, it is in contact with the wooden stick, so it is growing very slow compared to the opposite end of the tendril, which is growing very fast. So since this is attached, it can't further move on, so the growing part of the remaining tendril will start curling up like this. Okay, so the part of the tendril in contact with the object does not grow fast, so the part of the tendril which is far away is growing. So this causes the tendril to circle around or curl up and thus cling to the object or the support. As you can see here, the tendril is growing and turning inward. Now this tendril, which is the tip of the tendril, is not at all touching the support. That means the below part of the tendril is touching the support, so that will go slower, whereas the tip of the tendril is going very fast, and you can see how it is curling up. Okay, the tip which is far away will grow faster than the other tip of the tendril. Okay. So we just saw how a plant is responding to a stimulus, that is touch. Touch of any object or touch of a human body. Okay. So let's look into how does plant movement happen and how do they react to different stimulus. Now we know that plants are fixed. They do not move from one place to another. That means they will not show any movement of locomotion. But individual part of the plant like root, shoot and leaf do show some changes by moving or by showing growth to external stimuluses like light, force of gravity, chemical substance, water and touch. Now this movement of the body or the part of the body towards these external stimulus is called as tropism. Okay, we are going to look into individual external stimuli and how does it happen. Just now we saw the touch. How does the plant body reacted? The leaf whirled in and the stem started curling up and growing longer and longer, like the tendril. The remaining we are going to look into it. The first one that we are going to look at is hydrotropism. Hydro means water and tropism means the growth movement of the plant body. Now, as you can see, the lotus plant, the stem and the roots of the lotus plant are growing to inside the water. That means towards the water. So it is a positive movement. Okay? The growth of the plant is towards the water. So they are positive hydrotropism. Whereas if you see the other picture, it's the cactus. The cactus always try to keep its stem away from the water. So it's a negative hydrotropism. Okay? Hydro means water and tropism means movement of the part of the plant body. Next is phototropism. Photo means light. And we know that the leaves of the plant will always grow towards the light because it needs light for photosynthesis. So this plant is showing a positive phototropism because the leaves are growing towards the light. At the same time, the next picture, if you can see, the light is coming from this direction. The leaves are on the opposite direction. They are growing. So it shows negative phototropism. Okay. The next is geotropism. Geo means gravity. So you can see the banyan roots moving towards and growing towards the gravity. That is towards the earth surface. That is underground, towards the earth. So that is a positive. Whereas if you look into this picture, the leaves are growing downwards, whereas the root is above. Right? So the roots of this plant is growing away from the gravity. Therefore, it's a negative geotropism. Okay? Next is chemotropism. Chemotropism means the reaction or the growth of a plant part because of the chemical. The best example is when the pollen sticks on the stigma, a pollen tube starts growing towards the ovary. How does that happen? Because there are some chemical substances which are released by the pollen tube and the ovary. Both of them sense it, especially the chemical substance released by the ovary is sensed by the pollen tube and the pollen tube starts growing towards the ovary. The moment the pollen tube touches the ovary, the pollen grain is being pushed down. So this is how the chemotropism happens. Okay. So let's just look into the definition of tropism and types of tropism. So growth of movement of a plant part. Okay. In response to an external stimulus. In the direction of the stimulus determines the direction of the response. So tropism means directional movement. If the plant was growing towards the stimulus like water, light, right, gravity, we called it as positive tropism, which we just saw in the pictures. And if the plant part goes away from the stimulus, then it's called as negative tropism. So a very quick review, a recap. Phototropism is stimulus to light, which the stems and the leaves showed. Geotropism is the stimulus to gravity, which the roots showed. Chemotropism is stimulus to chemicals, which the pollen grains and the pollen tubes showed. Hydrotropism is stimulus to water. Again, the roots show this. And thigmotropism is stimulus of touch, which the stems, of the tendrils of the pea plant or creeper and the sensitive leaves of touch plant. Okay, so this is how a plant responds to a stimulus, either by showing directional movement, and the other one is by releasing chemical substances called as plant hormones. Okay, so this is the second way of how a plant responds to a stimulus is by releasing chemical substance called as plant hormones. We are looking into 4 major plant hormones. First one is the auxin, which helps in cell enlargement, cell differentiation. It's always present at the tip of the stem and the roots, the growing tip, because they have to grow rapidly. Okay, it helps in fruit growth. It helps the plant to respond to light and gravity. Now, if the auxin of the stem is always released on the opposite direction of the light. It always is released in the opposite direction of the light. This helps the stem to grow towards the light, that is upward. And on the roots, this auxin is always released towards the gravity. So it helps the root to grow downwards. Okay? Like in the seed which is germinating, the stem, the leaf is on towards the light. Okay, so auxin is released somewhere here away from the light and the leaves therefore goes towards the light. The next hormone that we are going to look into is gibberellin. Okay, gibberellin, it promotes cell enlargement and cell differentiation. It is always involved in shoot extension, okay, and stimulates elongation of the shoot, the length of the stem. The length of the shoot growing longer and longer is because of the gibberellin. Okay. The next hormone that we're going to look into is, again, it is very helpful for cell division in plants. It helps in aging of leaves. It helps in opening the stomata. But the major function of cytokinin is to help the fruit and seed to grow and mature. Okay. Like you can see here, the strawberry fruit is growing, okay, because of the cytokinin, which helps it to go through cell division, rapid cell division, and gradually you can see the seeds also growing faster and faster, and now you will see the gradual change of the fruit from green to red. This is all because of the cytokinin present in the fruit. Okay, so this is what cytokinin does. So the major function of cytokinin is to help in fruit growth and seed growth by rapid cell division. Okay. The next and the last hormone that we're going to look into is abscisic acid. This is the only hormone which allows the plant to grow, stop growing, that is growth inhibitor. Okay. It helps in closing the stomata. It helps in wilting, means drying up of the leaf and falling off the leaf. When the leaves mature enough and their lifespan is about to end, abscin is the one which is released in the leaves. The leaves will start wilting, means curling up and drying up, and then they finally fall off from the leaf. And it is the one which causes the flowers and the fruits also to detach from the plant once they are ripened. Especially the flowers, once the fertilization of the pollen grains and the ovary is finished, then the flower petals have to dry off and fall down. That is being taken care by abscisic acid. Same way, when the fruit is ripened, it will fall off from the tree just because the abscisic acid is present. Okay, so the three hormones which are responsible for the growth are, first of all, auxin, gibberellin, and cytokinin. And the one which stops the growth is abscisic acid. So we just looked into how plant coordination and control is taken care of. The one way of done it, the plant does it by releasing plant hormones, and the other way is by tropism, movement or directional growth or movement towards external stimuli. Hope this was